right, now we are recording. We've already approved the agenda in the meeting minutes, so we can dispense with that because we had a quorum anyway at that point. Welcome, Mr. Greaves. Okay, so we have had some discussions with the attorneys on our member class, and in particular, the antitrust attorney had some heartburn with the fact that our contributing members, which is this right here, was not open to all. He really didn't like that it was just invitation of the board. He said, look, I recommend that you let anyone join, but they can't vote unless it's invitation of the board. And yes, this is window dressing, but trust me, it's going to save you some potential issues down the road. And we said, okay, that makes sense to us. So we have changed this contributing class, and I'm just getting to the changes here now, and said open to anyone who wants to join, providing that they do these documents, right? However, they cannot vote unless they are invited by the board. Essentially, it accomplishes the same task, but it passes some antitrust muster.
It's a sleeping policeman model. That's fine.
Denise, I think since the last time I saw this, the invitation to the of the board is now at the steering committee and working group level.
Well, it is actually. So what I did was added. It was a little confusing. So they are both invitation of the board. In other words, they can't vote at all unless the board invites them. So it really does sort of box them in. Yes, you can join, but you can't join a working group. And the focus here is that it could be a contributing member who is a competitor, who has no business being in DFMDC. They're just trying to get access to proprietary information or, you know, customer lists. And so they can't vote on anything unless they're invited by the board.
Okay.
And we want to have them do a really good job of self-identifying and telling on themselves of what they want to do and agree to the terms and conditions of being able to be bound by what the agreement says for them using the services, and let them be bad actors with the rules that we have in place. It will not be a good outcome. We'll have opportunity to remove them and provide them with evidence of why we want them removed.
Why do they want to join as a nobody, nothing, nowhere?
They wouldn't, John, and this was the frustrating part for us hearing this from Keith, was the fact that the only value add services providers is going to get benefit of this data of the cleansing of transportation capacity and cleansing of moves are those people that deploy our piece of software that is pushing that transaction. These people that come in as a member class that don't want the software and don't want the service, they're basically going to be able to make a page of themselves that they can see others like themselves that's only viewable by them. And it's on a website that's not even part of my system. It's literally a landing page for them to make a landing page and feel like they did something, but they're never logging into our system.
Fine.
So the decision here is, it sounds like everyone's comfortable with this. There, again, the IP attorney recommended that we have some sort of nominal payment for the contributing members. I'm sort of mixed on that. We could, but then that means people like John and Linda also, well, Linda, if she's a contributing member, not, you know, part of the board, I guess for both of you. But now remember, guys, this is post interim, right? This is when we're at full pool. So this is not the 3-person interim. This is not the 5-person interim. This is when we have 11 members. Do we want a nominal payment for the contributing members?
No.
I don't understand the purpose of it.
If you impose a payment, then you impose an expectation, which is what we just eliminated.
Yep.
I agree with that.
You're backing the bus into the same garage.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And expectation of value.
Yeah.
It ain't worth anything. You're not getting anything. Have a nice day. Sign here.
And thanks for coming to look, because we really want you to be able to see that we've set up an organization that keeps you at bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We identified you at the first line of security, and we have you isolated.
The EAs and ENs will like that.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, they will. Okay, so that's member class C. Member class N is a non-equity. It is what it is. Obviously, they're not getting a share, so they're not having to sign any of the license agreements, et cetera, et cetera. They pay normal fees, not reduced fees. This isn't the transaction fees. They're not part of the steering committee. They are part of the working groups. Anyone can join as a non-equity member. They have a reduced payment.
Right. Done.
Okay, and then
Well, they actually have a one-time payment and then ongoing transaction fees.
yeah, and the ongoing transaction fees are the normal fees. They're not reduced. And these are suggestions, right? But a $50,000 one-time payment and the transaction fees, they're paying the normal fees. And yeah, and then they're part of the working groups. So they're sort of like we're not saying associate member, that's a non-equity.
Mhm. So,
Yeah.
okay. And I was looking to see if there was anything about when that member class was available. Is there any stipulation that it's not available until the first 40 have been filled? Or was that a needed? I know we talked about it a little bit previously, so.
We did. And you're right, Linda. In fact, that's in the ugly bylaw ads was a line back about,
Okay.
do we want to, do we have to fill the first 40 seats, if you will, before we open up the DFM? If we want to do that, then I think we should do that in the bylaws. And not open up the non-equity positions. But, you know, it's a business. This really, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. Do we want to have, does Mike want to have the ability to say, you really want to join, but you really don't want equity? Okay, fine. You know, that's fine. We'll still take your 50 grand and you still have to pay the fees. You know, okay, but you don't get equity. It might be good to have that option.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I can really see that there's a lot of companies that could, in their early stages, have a place where their venture capital investors have put restrictions on what they can do with the money. And one of the things that is a restriction is that they're not allowed to invest in other companies.
Yeah. So you don't want to put a restriction on this class coming in as part of the,
Just don't
well,
think it
before
goes
that
here.
40. Okay.
Think it goes into bylaws, and it's part of our discussion that we have to have about when, you know, it may be, Linda, that once we have 10 of the equity class folks, then we can open up the others. It might be that when we have 20 of the equity class folks, that we can open up the other classification. It might be that we open both of them up at the same time. It might be that they can't have one of the non-equity until there is a corresponding equity one.
I think you do it in the cascade model, Michael, as each class reaches its maximum participation to trigger a class. So you move down the field, as it were, until you, so EA becomes EN because the EA is full. EN becomes N because EN is full. N never becomes full.
Right,
So
but the question is can N begin to get populated while EA is still open?
that is correct.
So John is saying no. EA has to become full before EN opens up.
Well, that's true.
Right.
EA and EN for sure. I'm asking about EA and N.
Because potentially the company is precluded from investing in equity by their VC.
You know, it
Yeah.
could very well be that we go to you know, the Texas Blockchain Association and we're having the conversation with they're 18 member companies where some of them would be interested in an equity position and some wouldn't. We wouldn't want to only say, okay, well, we're only going to work with those that are going to just do the equity from this.
No, that's not what we're saying, Michael. That's not. I know exactly where you are here. That's not what we're saying. At least I don't think that's what we're saying. Here's what I'm saying, in my own way, as it were. You are in this room. Let's say it's the Jacksonville branch of the Florida Association of Freight Brokers, and there's 18 of them in the room, and 4 of them have got the big money, and they're in because Florida, as you know, is a pain for trucking because it's a one-way street. The rest of the team, some of them will take the 50, and some of them will wait and see. Those that want to join the big money are executed on the spot in the nicest possible way, not a la guillotine. The ones who want N class basically sign the documents, right, and are perceived and are invoiced, right, but they're not activated based on the company's rules.
So let me try to help clarify this just a little bit, because one of the things that Keith has identified for us, and then Sparks has corroborated from the legal perspective of this, is in order to be able to have these companies become shareholders of the company, they are going to have to be accredited investors. And as a accredited investor, they're going to have to represent that their business is worth $5 million, that they have so many, or that they individually were paid a certain amount over the past 3 years. There's a criteria for what is being an accredited investor, and each of these companies is truly going to have to go through a different process of saying, I am interested in the equity and I'm willing to go through the evaluation process of being an accredited investor. So I think we have to have the member class N as where companies are all going to be coming into, but they need to express their interest in being an EA where they are saying, I want one of those first 40 spots, or I'm not interested in one of those first 40 spots. And if they say they're interested in one of those first 40 spots, then these are the additional things that you have to be able to do.
Actually, Michael, you just cracked it, because I was wrong. I was not thinking right. All 18 can join. They can join on the day.
As an N, right? For the 50,000.
Yeah, but they opt for where they want to join. When you reach 40 EAs, that's no business of anybody but you and your shareholders, and it's a press release. You might have 200 N's and still be
correct.
Still be at 23 EAs, and no one is going to opt for EN when they can do EA for the same money.
That's correct. And as soon as EA is subscribed completely, then participant 41 can only participate in EN.
Right.
That's correct. But Michael,
and that's the reason why we laid it out this way. But I think it's a little confusing for the chart, just because what is column B and column C, B leads into C, but N, the one that's right smack in the middle of this, is really the first one that is available. And the option after that, so I mean, I almost think that column N should become the very first column next to member type.
Yep.
And then they can have as an option of the member class EA, and when that's fully subscribed, then it would move over to EN.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
That was clarifying.
Mm,
No.
let me, not quite for me, but it could be just.
Oh, I'm going to help. Watch this. So this column here,
You're just going to pull column in and drop it. Oh, look at that. Yep.
Thank you for that. So now I was just making sure I understand the logic then. So
I didn't realize we had small children with crayons in the meeting.
Denise, I think the idea is because N is the third, really the choices are either EA or N are the first two choices. And in this, it shows N as the kind of the third column, when in fact, EA and N are your first two choices. That's how you can join.
That's it, Jeff. You got it. Right.
So I understand the navigation here, but I heard a couple different things. I just want to make certain for the purpose of the minutes, I'm capturing it correctly. So we are going to let them join as an EA or an N on day one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
so that they may be an N that has elected interest in EA.
But they're
Day
signing.
one, we can't guarantee them that they are I mean, as soon as they go through the qualification process of being of demonstrating an accredited investor and an accredited investor, then they can become an EA. But there is a barrier that's there in order to be able to do that. And that barrier is that they have to be able to go through the waiver process, the SEC waiver process of being able to identify that they are an accredited investor. So the
Okay.
very first thing that's going to happen is they're going to be able to pay the $50,000. They're not going to be able to pay the $100,000 for the investment until they have made certification and validation that they are an accredited investor.
Okay, that makes sense to me. But what if they don't choose to be ever an equity?
Then,
They just want to stay in the N.
yep. Then at that, I mean, at that point, then they are a member class participant that has the ability to negotiate and work in the features side of the working group and
Share data and pay fees.
share data and pay fees
And charge fees.
and charge fees.
Charge fees. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that's clear for me. Then day one, you can be an EA or an N for whatever purposes, either because you want to be an N and stay an N, or because you need that as your first hop, right? But we still are going to give them the option to either be an EA or an N on day one.
I think we want to present both options to them, but recognize that the reality is that we want to close the N and create the application process for the submission of their accreditation.
Okay. But we still have unlimited number of Ns ultimately, and we have a limited number of EAs, which is 40.
That's
Mhm.
correct.
And after the EAs are completely full, then and only then will we open EN.
ENs. That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have this for the minutes.
You have it correct.
Okay.
And the reduced fees and the equity of EA is a big incentive for them to complete that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Jeff. Okay, given those changes, and that's easy enough to make, I think we have what we need to strike a vote. Because it has been to the attorneys, and we do have it in writing from the antitrust attorney that this is what we're talking about is not something that has to go back in front of them.
Yeah. I move to, yeah.
Again,
We're accepting these member classes as proposed. Is that correct?
yes.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to, for the purpose of the recording, a motion to approve these member classes for DFMDC?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Linda, Jeff. Thank you, guys.
And John nodded his head widely. No.
Yes.
One quick question, because there's a question mark on the governance onboarding under N.
Yes. Yeah.
Are they in the governance?
Yeah. And I'll explain that actually. And that's a good point. So The contributing member classes, it's a question mark, really shouldn't be a question mark. It depends. If they are invited by the board, then they're going to have to go through the governing module. If they're not, then they're not, right? So it's really, it depends.
Right.
If they have the invitation of the board. The non-equity class, to be honest with you, I'm not quite certain what, sorry, let me get that big again. Not certain what those roles are going to be. And that takes us to the next slide here in a minute. So the extent of so what this role has, because they don't have any actual voting, I'm not certain that they're going to have to do any governance onboarding at all, but we don't know that for sure.
So just thinking about who it's going to be, right? These are non-equity based DFM members. We want their opinions. We're going to want them to be participating in the creation of ideas that are coming up as features. So I think they will have access to the governance side, but as a class of DFM members, they won't have any of the options to be somebody that is the designee for their company because they won't have any steering committee votes.
Right. Okay. That makes sense because they would have feature votes because they can join the
Working group.
They can join working groups so they can see issues and they can vote on the issues in working groups. I mean, they can add content to them.
Yeah, just to comment into this, we're approving the classes. The required documents, I don't see as, I mean, I think that list could change over time. Is this we are approving the list exactly of all of these documents? Or are we just approving?
Are not done.
No.
Okay, exactly. And that's
Just
what I just want to clarify.
Yep.
We are agreeing that top column that
Yes.
designates these member classes is being approved.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Just this right here. We are actually about to move into documents, but this is, we only looked at the member classes and that was it. That's a good question though.
Yeah.
And now speaking of, I'd like to go to the MOUs and the member agreements. We've simplified these greatly. You guys have seen these. You've seen them like 3 times now, you'll see here. And today, I'd very much like to get a vote on these if we can. And you'll see what the timeline is for next week. So again, we're picking these off. All right, I'm gonna stop share and I'm going to start. Michael, do you want to start with the MOUs? I think that makes sense.
Yeah, start with the MOU for the contributing member, please.
Okie dokie, just give me a second and get that up. Contributing member.
And this is going to be available digitally on the website?
Yes, ma'am. This is a click wrap on the website. No signature line that's on here. It's a click, I agree. And we've actually added a little bit of a marketing touch to it because it is the first thing that is being seen by this person that is logging in on their behalf. So I'll give you a minute to be able to read it. It's just a half page.
Do you mind increasing the size of it, please?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Very happy to.
I was going to pull it up and then I realized that I might not have what is the most recently amended version. So
No, you do not, because this was just changed literally about an hour ago when we put the marketing stuff.
Well, changed an hour ago with bullet point 3 and bullet point 4 from David to include a little bit more of a marketing flair to it. So.
No. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, there is no such thing as a digital freight industry.
There is now.
No, sir. That would imply that freight is being carried digitally. I think that
There was a word that was clarifying that in the previous draft.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading it as someone from JB Hunt.
yeah.
And I ain't in the digital freight industry. I am Whereas DFMDC is offering services, no, it's providing services to improve the performance of the freight industry through digital technology. Whereas JB Hunt has an interest in supporting the improved performance of the freight industry through digital technology.
Through digital, yeah.
Thank you.
And in item 3, a similar slight modification, JB Hunt states their purpose for supporting and complementing JB Hunt states their purpose for participating in the improved performance of the freight industry through digital technology adoption.
Industry, hang on, in digital freight adoption, yeah. That's it?
Digital technology adoption.
And then period there?
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Now we got it.
Is onboarding process, is there a reason onboarding is capitalized?
Because it should be. The onboarding is actually a, hang on, what was I once told? It's a proper noun or something, some such reason. It is always an O for some reason, a capital O. I have no idea. I was told long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I that's how I tend to see it, and I did it as well because part of the module is, you know,
It's called onboarding?
Yeah.
When you opened your Friday at the crack of dawn with an argument that lasted an hour as to whether blockchain has a small b or a capital B, I ain't going there again today.
Ouch.
I love it. I think they settled it with Bitcoin. With the Bitcoin blockchain is a capital B for Bitcoin, and the little, like a token, is a little b. But I'm curious, what was the outcome?
What was the outcome?
I don't know. Yeah.
We didn't hear you, John. What was the outcome of the argument?
I'm going to use a capital B. IEEE are going to use a capital B. Insights are going to use a small b. ISO is going to use whatever the hell they think is appropriate by each committee. And I just love when a standards community can't agree on a standard way to spell a word. I rest my case.
Yeah, I just love when people write about the blockchain. It makes me crazy.
Right.
Anyway, that's fun.
I love this. This can go. I propose the adoption of the current model of the contributing member memorandum of understanding, John Greaves, for the purposes of recording.
I'll second that in a hot second.
Excellent. Very good.
Then I would suggest we move on to the contributing member agreement.
Okay.
That's
You don't
so
wanna do
seconded.
the, MOU of the DFM member MOU?
No, I was going to suggest that we stay on the contributing member and review the contributing member agreement.
Alrighty. Let me get that one open. It is always, as you know, a back and forth here with the contributing member agreement.
Doris Day.
First day.
No, Doris Day. I have been puzzling for some months now over Denise's still photo that pops up when she's not in action. And I've just realized root is in, if you see pictures of Doris Day, you know, in Hollywood poses.
Mhm.
That's, thank you, I think, John.
She's gonna be Googling Doris Day.
Yo,
So,
I love Doris Day.
that's fun.
Okay, here is a contributing member agreement. And John, so you'll be happy to know that after further discussion. Okay.
Move it up, please, Denise.
Mhm.
Okay, hold. Thank you. North American. You can't use the word rapidly. It's an aging word, meaning it might be rapid tomorrow, but what about next Tuesday? What about last Thursday? So
Was this
Just be removed.
the marketing side of things, adding that?
It sounds like it.
I'm
feels
sorry.
like
It's having
is-
that kumbaya moment, you know, it's like,
digital
come
services,
on.
including digital freight matching. Digital freight matching. Fundamental capacity to DFM operations on their shipper, carrier, and broker. Move it up, please, Denise. Thank you. And up again, please.
That's it.
In which case, it's good to go. For the purposes of recording, I propose that this document, as written and agreed today, shall be adopted.
I second.
Excellent.
This is actually a beautiful document.
Yeah, and we do need to have the corporate bylaws amended and approved prior to this being signed by anybody.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understood. Okay.
There we go. Next.
Next is going to be the DFM MOU. So we're done with contributing members. Good job, guys. This is the DFM member MOU. And I shall make that bigger. I will change the
I'd
changes.
say some of the same amendments need made, right?
Yeah. I can do that now, or I can do that.
No, you just cut and paste from the one we passed, and on the understanding of that, right?
Yes, I will do that.
We'll facilitate. I'm down at number 1 at the moment. Done. Noting that the amendments to the use of the wording digital freight industry shall be transposed from the earlier approved document, I propose this document shall also be approved.
Seconded. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else
Excellent.
that, just need to make sure that all of the places are amended.
Yeah, I'll do that.
It's the 2 places right there.
Yeah.
Whereas and whereas.
The next one is going to be the DFM member agreement. Let me open that one up. Hang on a second. All right, new share. Here it is. Make it bigger. Now the recitals are the same, and let me know if I need to make it bigger or when you're ready to move up.
Move up, please. No jumping ahead of me. I wanted to repeat the same nonsense all over again, and you stopped me. Next.
Did we ever get clarification on that shareholders bit?
We did not. It's still open. And
I'm sorry, on which?
If you slide back up, Denise,
I know what you
yeah, right there, the
yeah.
shareholders.
Yeah, that was what I mentioned before, is the edit that we have to get clarification from the attorney of changing it in this first version of the bylaw changes.
I doubt there will be any change, but I do flag a warning. You can't put it in this document. You can't predetermine it. You can't, because it is a shareholder corporation. Think awfully well through and be prepared as chairman of the board that at each year when this matter comes before the board, if a consortia of voting members, shareholders, were to instead insist that we buy a new Sperry Rand solar energized black box instead,
And if the majority of the shareholders' shares that were voted at that annual shareholder meeting on this topic led to that being what the movement for the majority of the shares voted, then that would so be moved. But the only way that I know that would take place is if my vote was abstained and the shares that this shareholder has control of being able to cast a vote for would generate what the final casting of that vote would be.
Yeah, could we just look to amend this to just clarify by a simple majority vote of the shareholders of their shares? Would that?
So that's what we need to check, is just in the bylaws, it should identify that when there is a vote that is taking place by the shareholders, that the shareholders are voting for what their shares. I know that. But
it is at the beginning, but it's not in this document, which is why we can't use the same language that is consistent in the previous document here, because we don't have that clarifying at the beginning of the doc.
No. Yes, I'm right with you, Linda. You see that this is what I'm trying to do is protect this clause.
Yep.
So I can't stop a negative outcome. It is a majority vote of shareholders, right? You can't put into the minutes. However, I recommend to the board that after a very few numbers of operating profitably years, and I'm thinking as little as 3, that in fact the board award the Special Housing Corporation shares in DFM that they may do with as they please, thus terminating this clause. You follow? Because they will get dividends, they will share in the proceeds, and it will no longer be an issue of the board. What we're doing here is we're saying, let's say we make $100,000 next year. Let's say that in good management and best practice, the management team have asked for a budget for capital expenditure in year 2022 of $48,793. The board has met and reviewed the capital expenditure requirements and has approved them, thus leaving 50,200 and something in the kitty, as it were, from successful operating models. The board shall then determine that 23,700 of that shall go to special housing, and to an authority or unit that is approved by the board at that time. Georgia Special Housing, Macomb County Adult Care Center, whatever. And thus leaving a duly constituted safety net in place for unforeseen circumstances. At the third year, when there's $1 million floating around and 23 grand's needed, then you up the ante and you up the give. But then by year 5, you may determine that you don't need it at all, as it were, and you give them just the shares and a place on the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have digital freight matching industry there again. Is that okay? Yeah, I'm sorry. Just
That's in the, we can't change it, but this is what's in the bylaws as well.
right, which is why I'm trying to file that in the back of my mind to make sure that we're being
Yeah.
consistent.
Right. So if we do change this in the bylaws, do we have to come back and amend this document?
We would.
Okay.
This doesn't specifically state that this is pulled directly from the bylaws.
It does not specifically state that.
So we could amend it here.
We could just reference the bylaws here.
We could.
I mean, at the moment, we pulled this exact section from what's in the bylaws, but we could just identify the fact that there's, you know, a for benefit mechanism of identified in the bylaws.
Yeah, I think that would be most appropriate because this puts you at risk for misinterpretation and for the need to potentially amend these documents when we amend the bylaws. So
It's cleaner this way, isn't it?
I'd prefer it to be
Yeah.
cleaner by just referring to the bylaws, referencing, yeah.
Okay, so what we could do, has a legal authority to use monies for the purpose of construction, as referenced in the bylaws, and leave it at that?
Yep. I think that, yeah.
I like-
And then you
it's
just
nice.
get rid of the problem. Or,
Yep. Get rid of this completely.
I like that. Done.
Well, and if you wanted to change the digital freight matching industry term back to the one that you had in the other place, you could change that here now because it's now not a copy also.
Correct. I'm just gonna strike that out and go back and change that.
Right.
It's just easier than, because I've got the screen share up, so it's
So move the page up,
up or down?
down, whatever you, yes.
It's a Brit American thing.
Yes. Comes of having an aluminium garage.
Yeah, really.
I am unless the doctor says, why did you? Yeah, that's fine. That's true. Move, please, Miss McCurdy.
I like Doris better, but all right.
are we going to?
That may stick.
I'm going to make a motion to make sure that the adjustment that we just made in this document is gone back and made in the document that we previously approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and I've made a note to do that as well.
Thank you. I just know that it was previously approved and
I see what you mean, because
Yeah.
it's already in a previously approved document. And by amending this document, which is the governing document, you have to go back and amend the sub.
no, it's a parallel document for a different class. So
Correct.
it's just, yeah,
Matching
definitely.
document.
Yeah. I shouldn't ask you that.
Y'all are getting good at this.
Mm-hmm. The DFM member is not responsible to pay the tax in full. DFM pays the tax in full. The member is liable for its taxable element.
I don't think we refer to them any other way than as a DFM member, John.
No, it's not the DFM member that I'm asking about, Michael. The phrase is correct. But the way I read this, DFM member shall be responsible to pay the tax in full. I know it goes on to say to ensure the corporation collects the entire amount of such dues. There's just a slight bit of
So again, just for clarity, if I read the beginning of it, because again, you're referring to the word tax and you're correct, and it is capitalized and is in quotations. What this is referring to specifically and only is what is listed right before it, where it's identifying collectively the tax. So it's only in the event that any government authority imposes a sales tax, user or excise tax, for these other related payments of described herein dues, fees, or assessments. If the government comes in and says that because of the type of organization that we are, that we have to collect a sales tax, then that sales tax would be something that they have to pay.
Or if the state of Illinois imposes on Illinois-based members of DFM an Illinois-only tax.
That's correct. That's correct.
Are we then going to point out that only Illinois members would be liable for that?
So it's a good question, John, and it's one that actually came up in the earlier discussion of and review of the terms and conditions, but I haven't had a chance to go over it with the attorney yet as far as how some of these interstate agreements need to just be identified.
So here's my very radical proposal, which will please you enormously. Strike the whole paragraph.
I knew that's where you're going. Just always like go and wait for it.
Saw it coming.
I did. I was ready for that.
The easy button.
I've been ready
Here's
for it
why.
to go for a long time. So take it out of the other document too. Do we have a first and a second?
Let me explain before anybody just gets a little too excited. The reason I'm striking it is because it is not a corporate issue. A operator in Illinois will have no choice but to exercise an Illinois levy or a Georgia levy or a cryptocurrency transactional surcharge as levied by the states of Florida and Texas and blah, 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 blah. So why get ourselves...
Yeah, why single one thing out?
Yes, thank you. So it's gone, I propose.
Second?
And yep, second that it's gone here and that we go back to the previously approved
the matching
document,
document
and remove it as
be
well.
Also amended.
Yes.
Yep.
Second.
Done. Thank you. My goodness.
Excellent.
John, I thought your issue with that was going to be the word pay and who actually paid the tax versus them reimbursing us for any upcharge.
Good. Just as good a call, Jeff. It all came under the same melting pot that melted the words away.
Gone.
All right.
I think that's, we got done what we were hoping to get done today. So many thanks. Excellent.
Well, but we haven't reviewed the format and framework of the DFM Christmas card.
We can.
Denise has that picture.
I have that photo. I have that photo actually.
I'm glad you're already thinking about that, John.
Yes.
It's almost here.
We'll Photoshop you in, John, and Doris Day. How's that sound?
Actually,
wearing my golf shirt. When does that come?
The DFM data Christmas card will actually be the logo of DFM, but with a mask on.
You do realize what this deck is going to look like. I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be Where's Waldo, but it's going to be Doris Day. It's going to be slides.
I love it. Then there's a point of amusement for you. Close by here, there's a house, and it has two concrete lions on the gate posts on the driveway, and they put masks on them.
Sign of the times.
At least we're now starting to get, not away from perhaps the whatever reality there is in it, but at least away from the somberness that was being imposed with it. It was like, as I said to my brother Paul, who was speaking to me from his Scottish island last week, and I said to him, don't you feel very much now in the COVID era that you are actually recreating Neville Shute on the beach? And he said, yes, he does. And he said he's expecting a submarine to arrive any day soon. But where he lives in the Scottish Islands, believe me, there's him and his wife. And then if they get in the boat for 30 minutes, there's him, his wife, and about 80 more people. And then if they get on the bigger boat, there's him, his wife, and about 800 people. And then if they get on the really big boat, they get to Aberdeen, there's maybe 40,000 people. And yes.
Denise, did you see in the Wall Street Journal today, they were selling 1 square foot of Scottish forest area, and you could become a lord or lady for $59.
Yes. One of the Uber drivers in Melbourne has done that, actually. He's very proud of it. He's got all the paraphernalia mounted in his car.
That's funny.
And he goes every year. He's fuming this year. He hasn't been able to go and look at his 1 square foot and make sure the little markers in the ground still with his name on. Sad. I want 1 square foot of swamp, and then I can grow a long straggly beard, carry a shotgun, and go, you all need to get the hell out of here because I'm going to do some bootlegging down.
That wasn't bad, John. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
That was impressive.
Yes, I practiced on it for years, ever since I saw that rather spooky film. I can't remember. I think, was it?
Deliverance.
Deliverance.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It was on last weekend. I actually watched it at like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, I don't know if this is such a good idea for me to watch at 11 o'clock at night.
Not if you want to sleep.
Yeah.
If you want one not to watch at 11 o'clock at night, but you should, go to and watch The Outpost.
The Outpost.
It has the most mundane description of the film that leads to actually a rather chilling film. It says, bunch of mercenaries assembled to relocate something in Eastern Europe in a war zone. Okay, what the hell? You put it on, and you recognize some of the actors because you go, oh, that's him. Oh, he was in and you can't remember the names, but it's got a decent cast. But what gets real interesting is the film's descriptive header is actually chronically underplays and underrepresents the film, its content, and why it's worth watching.
You said it was chilling.
It is. It actually becomes rather chilling.
Is that worth watching?
It is.
I'm thinking the same thing. Like, watch why?
I have limited amount of time to apply to entertainment, and if I'm going to be entertained, I don't necessarily want to be chilled.
I recently recommended to certain friends of mine who were behaving badly that they should go home and watch Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, which is one of the great classic films of all time.
Top 100.
Yeah, Taylor and Burton at their very, very best, living in a film, their real life.
I feel like we're doing that.
Yeah, I do too.
Weekly.
Can I go now?
Yes, I think so. I think we'll adjourn. But great work. Thank you so much, everyone. We're good to go. Meeting is
Wonderful.
done.
Thank you, guys. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.